Hello and welcome to Senturus Power BI Visualizations Intermediate. My name is Patrick Powers, trainer, data architect, and developer here at Senturus. This module is on DAX. In this video, we will introduce DAX functions, build custom fields using DAX, and leverage DAX to create a dynamic visualization. Let's start with the first question most new Power BI users have. What is DAX? DAX stands for Data Analysis Expression and is a collection of functions, operators, and constants that can be used to create new objects as well as in formulas or expressions. DAX is key to getting the most out of Power BI. Functions, with the use of arguments, are predefined formulas that perform calculations. Arguments vary in number depending on the function and can be things like true, false, or column references. DAX has different categories of functions, including time intelligence, logical functions, mathematical operators, Boolean choices, statistical functions, and many others. DAX doesn't need to be complex and can be as simple as sum, like we saw in our last video. DAX can be more complex when needed, as we will see in our dynamic report page demo. Many excellent resources exist for learning more about DAX. Microsoft has great web pages available that list all of the DAX functions with practical examples. In addition, there are books available for DAX. One good book is The Definitive Guide to DAX by Marco Russo and Alberto Ferrari. In the last video, we used DAX to create new columns and measures. DAX is an integral part of developing reports in Power BI. In this demo, we will explore additional DAX functions. We'll create a report that shows us our top 10 customers based on sales as well as additional details. We've started a new report page, and we're going to take a look at our data. Under DIM Customer, we see that our customer name is split out into first name and last name. We want to go ahead and use a text function to make this a single field. Click on DIM Customer to make sure it's selected, and from the ribbon, we're going to click on New Column. We'll call the field Customer Name, and we're going to use the concatenate function. Concatenate DIM Customer First Name. Then we have to concatenate again because concatenate only allows for two values. So concatenate, quote, space, quote, customer last name. So here we are concatenating the first name with the concatenation of a space and the last name. Click the check mark to commit this column, and we see our new column here under Fields. In the visualization pane, click on Table to add it to our canvas. And we're going to add that customer name and sales amount to the table. We will now filter this down to our top 10. In the Filters pane, click Customer Name, and from the drop-down, select Top N. Under Show Items, type in 10. From Fact Internet Sales, drag Sales Amount to the By Value drop zone. Don't forget, you need to click on Apply Filter to apply this. Let's add some more detail to this. In the visualization pane, let's change this from a table to a matrix. You can change a visualization at any time. Note, by doing so though, you may render the visualization unusable as not all visualizations have the same options. From DIM Order Date, Date Hierarchy, drag Year to the Columns drop zone. We now want to see if our customers are from the US or international. If they are not US, we don't care about the specific country, and we'll group those countries into a single bucket. For this, we'll use the switch function. This could also be done with a group, which we'll cover in a later video. Click on DIM Customer. In the ribbon, click on New Column, and we'll use the following expression. Origin country equals switch DIM Customer Country, United States, US, International. Here we're checking DIM Customer Country. If the value is United States, we'll set it to US. If not, we'll set it to International. Click the check mark to commit. Take the new field, Origin Country, and drag it above customer name in the rows drop zone. If we expand out our two values, we see that the majority of our top 10 customers were international customers, and we had one from the US. We've seen how to create basic calculations with DAX. Let's leverage DAX for a more complex visualization. We will use DAX functions to create a report that allows the user to dynamically select their measure of choice. We'll also allow them to select the country. This demo will combine slicers, columns, measures, and DAX into a single final report. We'll add a new report page, and we'll start by creating a new table. This table will hold the values to be used by the user to pick the selected dimensions. In the menu, click Modeling, and from the ribbon, click New Table. To create this table, we're going to use a DAX function. Our formula is dynamic measure, name of the table, and we're going to use data table, measure name, this will be our column name, and we're inserting string values, sum of sales, average sales, sum of profit, average profit. So notice here we've used two different DAX functions, the data table function and the string function. Click on the check mark to commit. We now have our new table over here under Fields, Dynamic Measure. And it's got one column, Measure Name. If we go and look at this in the data view, we see our single table with its 4 rows of data. In this DAX function, we are going to be using profit. In order to use profit, we need to make it a column versus a measure in our data. From the modeling ribbon, we're going to create a new column with the following formula. Profit column equals sum fact internet sales, sales amount, minus sum fact internet sales, total product costs. That's the exact same formula we used when we created it as a measure, but now we're making this into a column. We're going to format this as currency, 2 decimal places, and we're going to leave the aggregation as sum. Next, we'll create a measure to allow the user to select which one they want. Under Fields, make sure you're on Dynamic Measure. From the Table Tools ribbon, we'll click New Measure. We've named the measure Select and Measure, and we're using quite a few different DAX functions in this. Note that I've expanded out my panel by using the expand collapse on the end, and I've entered in some lines to make this easier to read. We're first off using an if, and we're checking to see if dynamic measure name has a single value. If it does, we'll check that value using our switch, sum of sales, sum of profit, average sales, average profit, which line up to our 4 rows in our table. And based on what has been selected, what will be returned? Sum of sales, sum profit column, etc. We then are putting in the default values. If nothing matches, use sales for the switch. And if nothing matches in the switch, use internet sales for our if statement. Commit this, and we'll set that back. And now we'll begin our report page. Let's add a line visualization, and we'll resize it after we get some additional fields on here. From dim order date, date hierarchy, add year and month to the line axis drop zone. From dynamic measure, add selected measure to the values drop zone. At this stage, our line is showing the default value for our DAX formula, the sum of sales. We'll add slicers to change the values. Make sure nothing is selected on the canvas and add a slicer. From dynamic measure, add measure name to the slicer. When we click on different values, we see our line change. From dim customer, add a second slicer to the report page. Add country to this second slicer. Let's rearrange this as desired. We can also clean up the title. Click on the line visualization, and from the visualization pane, click the format icon. Click on the title entry, and click the FX button to make this title dynamic. In the dialog, under Based on Field, choose Measure Name. Click OK. Now, as we change our measure, our title also changes. Here we've created 4 distinct visualizations in the space and the area of one and made it very dynamic for our users. That concludes this module where we learned about DAX, what it is, how to use it, and built a dynamic visualization using DAX functions. In our next installment, we'll see how to create effective tooltips. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and check back for the next entry in the series. Thank you for watching.